Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Film Club Week 3. This week we're going to be talking about Pokemon the first movie. I don't have a guest with me this week because I did forget to reach out to anyone, but we're going to carry on anyways. In lieu of asking people sort of interview questions, I'm just going to answer them myself in regards to the movie. Um, so I guess may as well get started. Uh, there was a bit of an error, and so I'm going through this a second time because I forgot to turn on my microphone. Thank you to Pimer in my stream chat for letting me know. Uh, so, first off, why did I choose this movie? I chose Pokemon the first movie, first off, because the new Pokemon game is now released, and it's a good time to get that sweet, sweet search engine optimization. But second, I picked it because Pokemon the first movie is low key a philosophical masterpiece. Like there are some there are some heavy hitting lines in it and some deep thought that was definitely put into it, which is insane because it's a cartoon for babies. I mean, not obviously actual babies, but like it's a cartoon for small children. I actually really love Pokemon the first movie because of this. I actually own it on DVD. Pokemon is something that I really enjoy. You know, me and 5 billion other people on the planet. But the first Pokemon game I ever played was actually Pokemon Diamond on the Nintendo DS, which came out a bit after the first generation of Pokemon. Uh, and Pokemon the first movie is obviously based on the first generation of Pokemon. So this movie is the first of many Pokemon movies, but I've always thought that it's the best one, even if it's not the one that I kind of grew up with the Pokemon Company pushing. Um, as for my favorite scene in the film, I'd have to say my favorite scene is when Pikachu, Ash's Pikachu, is refusing to fight with clone Pikachu, and all the clones are fighting, and Pikachu just refuses to try to smack him. I just think that when the clone Pikachu starts tearing up and just refuses to stop fighting, even though Pikachu just isn't at all, I think that is, I think it's a very well done scene. I have some notes written down from when I was watching uh, Pokemon, the first movie. I have front and back of a sticky note because I don't have a notepad. So I'm just going to go through some of these. First off, and this is in chronological order because I literally wrote them down as I was watching the movie. First off, there is they get the scientists that clone Mew into Mewtwo get the DNA from a Mew fossil. Fossils in the real world don't contain actual DNA. Fossils in the real world are just kind of uh, rocks that are vaguely in the shape, well, not even vaguely, that are just in the shape of what used to be there. Um, but in the Pokemon world, Pokemon DNA and fossils is a long established, just it's something that exists. Every generation introduces new fossil Pokemon, and somehow, instead of being made of rock, the fossils are made of actual Pokemon. Uh, a message from Solomon in chat. I think it also shows the type of trainer Ash is that Pikachu, his first Pokemon, is able to look at the situation and say, "This ain't it, Chief." Yes, Ash and Pikachu have and Ash and Pikachu in the anime obviously have like the best of buddies relationship, but this movie really shows it very well. especially in the scene where all the Pokemon are getting stuffed into Mewtwo's psychic balls, and Pikachu's running away, and Ash shields him. As first he does the human shield maneuver, then he has Pikachu run away, and he's chasing after him, trying to catch up so he can do the human shield again. And then when Pikachu gets caught, when Pikachu falls off of the structure that they're on, first off, he immediately dives after him. And then when Pikachu gets caught, he just chases after the Pokeball because he cares that much, which is kind of the antithesis of Mewtwo, who throughout the entire movie up until the end just doesn't care for these real Pokemon. Well, I say real, they're all real Pokemon. Doesn't care for these natural born Pokemon, and only cares about proving his clone's superior strength. And this time when I was watching the movie, this was the first time I've seen the cut of the film that has the scientist's daughter. I don't know if the versions I've seen before cut that because they didn't think American audiences would get it, or because it was too dark. But I think that having the scientist's daughter there and having Mewtwo learn from the scientist's daughter is a great way of establishing how Mewtwo was raised in cruelty, having those memories torn away from him, and how it would turn him into this kind of uncaring sociopath that just wants to prove his strength. Especially considering after that he was in the hands of Giovanni, who who enforced upon him the ideals of strength above all else. He was turned into a weapon, and after he managed to break free from that, he didn't know how to be anything other than a weapon until the end of the movie. Actually, I do have written it down in my notes. Baby Mewtwo, when the clones are all in the vats, I think Baby Mewtwo is adorable, and everything that happens to him is so sad. And so after Baby Mewtwo, my notes, I have quote, "I will enslave humanity," because that's kind of what Mewtwo's doing. He wants to end the world, and those he doesn't kill, he's gonna turn into his servants, like he did with Nurse Joy. And then the film immediately cuts from Mewtwo giving his evil plan to, "This is Ash from Pallet Town. He wants to be a Pokemon master." It's just such a smash cut from dark and brooding to happy and joyful. And I think it really shows the contrast between, because obviously the main characters of the movie are Ash and Mewtwo, with the Mewtwo being the character that goes through the most growth over the film, and Ash being the catalyst for that growth. And so showing the differences between the two, and just that smash cut, Mewtwo wanting to destroy humanity, and Ash wanting to not be the one that cooks breakfast. I think it's a very interesting contrast. After that, in the scene with at the harbor, or the ferry departure, when Officer Jenny is telling everyone, "Sorry, you gotta go home. You don't have to go home, but you just can't stay here." The harbor master is with her, and I thought that it was kind of funny that the only character that has a non-American accent in the entire film is the one that believes in an ancient world-ending prophecy. Like, they could have just given her an American accent, but either the studio or the voice actress decided, and this is for the English dub, if you watched it in not English, then, well, that's perfectly fine, but this is the English version I'm talking about. Um, the harbor master just has like kind of an Eastern European accent, which I think he's a little poorly aged. Look, an American tells me it's the end of the world. I'm just gonna drop a quarter in their cup of coffee. Someone else says it, and I might listen. But nobody listens. They immediately just jump into the water. Some of them probably drowned, and those that didn't got to face the end of the world firsthand. Um, Speaking of Officer Jenny, all Officer Jennies and Nurse Joys in Pokemon throughout the anime and the games, they all look exactly the same. And there's a missing poster for the missing Nurse Joy in the harbor, and Brock says the words, quote, "She sure looks familiar," as he stares at a picture of a Nurse Joy. And all I could think to myself in that moment was, yeah, no shit. No shit, she looks familiar. It's Nurse Joy. They all even share the same name. After that, in the scene where everyone is jumping into the water, the inconspicuous Vikings that are Team Rocket in disguise, I will never not laugh at the "they mostly live in Minnesota" line, because that makes no sense to be in a Pokemon movie where Minnesota doesn't exist. And it is quite possibly one of the dumbest jokes I have ever heard. But that's what makes it so funny. So gut wrenchingly hilarious. Because it's so stupid. Let's fast forward a little bit to Mewtwo's introduction. Mewtwo is introduced to the trainers as, quote, the world's strongest Pokemon trainer. And all of them think, I'm gonna beat this guy. And none of them think to themselves, this guy owns a private island. He's probably gonna murder us all. Because if I were invited to the home of a rich guy on a private island that's secluded and was told that the storm that had kicked up was somehow part of the test to see if I was worthy to get there, I would just think that I was about to be murdered. But Mewtwo, he obviously introduces himself as the world's strongest Pokemon trainer and the world's strongest Pokemon, both of which are true. Because he has his clone Pokemon that are introduced just a bit after him and are so much incredibly stronger than the regular Pokemon that he has just cheated the game. What about the people that didn't make it, says Frosted in chat. There's like 6 or 7 people that try, and only 3 of them make it to the island. I can only assume the rest of them drowned. A significant chunk of those people had to have drowned. Mewtwo has the highest body count of any Pokemon in the anime. They didn't have Flyer Surf HMs. But Mewtwo, when he starts capturing the Pokemon, because so Mewtwo's whole argument is, You treat these Pokemon as nothing but your slaves. You're not worthy of them. And then he's also willing to kill the Pokemon too for being willing to be treated as slaves. But when he starts capturing the Pokemon in his special balls, then all of the trainers immediately, their first thought is immediately, oh god, how do I protect my Pokemon? Which, that alone should be enough for Mewtwo to realize, oh shit, maybe I'm not entirely right. And but he continues capturing them anyways. He even goes as far as capturing the actual Pokeballs. And that's when the scene where Ash is chasing after Pikachu to try to protect him comes in. And then that's when everyone except Ash in the group love their Pokemon more, so they even gave them nicknames. Yes. Yes, Solomon, that is correct. In fact, when Ash throws out his Charizard, he even specifically says, I didn't give him a nickname, but every other Pokemon trainer there has given their Pokemon nicknames. And he's just like, you can nickname these guys? You can give them names? But after Pikachu's captured and Ash chases the Pokeball down to the cloning machine, I have written in my notes, quote, anything can be broken by a determined enough dumbass. There's no such thing as idiot proofing. Because Ash straight up jumps into the cloning machine and breaks it from the inside out and ruins the entire machine. And then afterwards, when the Pokeballs come back from the exploding machine, and all the Pokemon are released, and the two Pokeballs that were captured were released, the two Pokeballs that Ash had put Charizard and Squirtle into, not Charizard, Bulbasaur and Squirtle into, they immediately fly to his hand like Thor summoning his hammer. He doesn't reach over and grab them. They just come to him. So after that, that's when we get all the clone Pokemon marching out onto the field to back up Mewtwo and execute the remaining humans. And then that's when the hero moment of the movie, Ash ominously rises from the smoke and then goes and tries to physically fight Mewtwo himself. Ash becomes the Pokemon in that moment and gets totally fucked. Just the complete and utter disregard that his punches are met with, only to be flung and only saved from certain death by a by a magical house cat. It's astonishing. Oh yes, I have written in my notes the song that they choose for when the clones are fighting each other. Like the clones are fighting, not the clones are fighting each other, but the clones are fighting their originals. I think that it's a horrible music choice. I mean, I don't think it's horrible because it's a sad song. I think it very much conveys the correct tone. I just think that they could have picked a better song than some dude just like singing while strumming an acoustic guitar. Everywhere else, the music is just like, traditional anime fare. And then this one song, this singular song, is just a dude strumming an acoustic guitar while Pokemon depressingly fight to the death. And during the clone fight, I wrote down a quote from Brock. It's not right to force Pokemon to fight this way. Everyone, all of the humans other than Ash, get a line saying something along the lines of Pokemon shouldn't fight, dot, 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 like this. This goes to show why Pokemon fights are morally wrong, dot, 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 when you remove their special abilities. Every single human, for a brief moment, acknowledges that it might be bad to be forcing their Pokemon to fight on their behalf, and then immediately backtracks and says the words like this. And I'm not even like the kind of person that thinks, oh man, Pokemon is horrible, animal abuse, blah, blah, blah. But still, you would, at that point, you're acknowledging that it might not be the world's greatest idea to force these animals to fight for your entertainment. And then immediately backtracking by saying, unless they have their special magic powers. But immediately following that scene, when Clone Meowth goes up to Team Rocket Meowth, Team Rocket Meowth immediately does a racism. He immediately says stuff like, you're different than me, so I'm going to keep an eye on you. I'm going to make sure you don't double cross me, you filthy clone. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but you know. And then Clone Mouth turns around and is like, bruh, I don't really care about all that shit. Clone Meow, what I wrote down for this scene is the words Meowth does a racism, and then Clone Meowth is based. Clone Meowth does not give a single fuck. He just wants to sit there and relax, take a nap even. And even when regular Meowth is staring at him like still hesitant to trust him, Clone Meowth is just sitting there taking a fucking nap like a G. Anyways, this is where Clone Pikachu fighting regular Pikachu comes back into play, because that's the scene directly following. And I wrote down for that scene, Clone Pikachu is a bastard. Because Clone Pikachu sees that regular Pikachu doesn't want to fight. It is crying because regular Pikachu doesn't want to fight. And still continues to beat up regular Pikachu like a jackass. All of the Pokemon are fighting each other, the clones versus the regular Pokemon, except for this one Pikachu and the Meowths. And the entire time, Clone Pikachu is just being a right old dick about it. And Ash, of course, seeing that his Pikachu is refusing to fight, decides, you know what, none of the Pokemon should be fighting. And then goes and kills himself. Well, obviously he doesn't kill himself, but he does jump into the middle of two incredibly powerful beams of psychic energy. And those beams of psychic energy turn him to stone, which, the way that everything is drawn and animated, you could tell me that they fully intended for him to just be a lying corpse, and then turned him to stone afterwards because they realized that would be bad for the children. Ash commits toaster path. But it did get everyone to stop fighting, and it made all of the Pokemon so sad that they brought him back to life with their tears, which begs the question, If I make my Pokemon sad enough, can I farm its tears as a miracle drug? Can I just start a Pokemon abuse farm where I make Pokemon cry until they give me their tears and use those tears as a miracle drug? Is that more morally repugnant than not repugnant repugnant? Is that more morally repugnant than a fucking forcing them to fight each other? Pokemon Tears Farm. Our revives just fossilized Pokemon tears. They could well be. Every time you use a revive, you're just forcing another Pokemon to cry. You know, I think that the Pokemon tears being a miracle bring you back to life liquid. It's it opens some more questions than it answers. Pardon? It opens more questions than it answers. And then lastly, last in my notes, I have written down quite possibly the most intriguing quote to ever come out of children's anime. I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what one does with the gift of life that truly matters. I feel like I get that quote wrong. I always get that quote wrong. I see now that I'm Googling it. Circumstances of one birth. Oh no, it's I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Like, damn. Mewtwo goes from being like, I'm gonna kill everyone and everything and replace them with better versions of them because I hate everyone, to Martin Luther King Jr. I think that Mewtwo stands against racism, and that's pretty poggers. We all need to take a stand against racism in our lives, and Pokemon is how we do it. But I think that it really is an intriguing line to end. It will pretty much end the story on. Obviously, the story ends with Ash and Misty and Brock and all the other Pokemon trainers back at the harbor with the lady with the weird accent, that and then the storm fades away, blah blah blah, symbolizes that Mewtwo has changed and the word he's not gonna go kill everyone. And then they just make another Mewtwo that wants to go and kill everyone eventually. You know, how many Mewtwo's are there in Pokemon? There's this Mewtwo, there's at least one other Mewtwo in a later movie. There's the Mewtwo in Detective Pikachu, which is implied to be a different Mewtwo than the Mewtwo. It's just there's gotta be like 4 or 5 Mewtwo's at this point. But I think that it is that the circumstances of one birth are a relevant line. I think that that is a pretty heavy line to end on for a children's movie, but it's one that makes complete and total sense for the world of Pokemon. Because in the world of Pokemon, it's not about like it, Pokemon isn't about like being a right dick. Pokemon is about companionship and treating your Pokemon as a partner and a friend rather than a servant. Which is why the villains of the games always treat their Pokemon like tools. Whereas in the games, the main character, the player character, every player character can literally form friendship, and some Pokemon literally only evolve into better forms after you max out their friendship. It's all about like companionship, friendship, making sure that the Pokemon. So ending on this line, I think goes to it fits that same philosophy that Pokemon has always shared. That Pokemon has shared between all of its games, its movies, its TV shows. It's always about the journey and companionship. You don't need to have the strongest Pokemon. If Pokemon were real, obviously there would be people who cared nothing more than making sure their Pokemon was the strongest. Like the Giovannis of the world, the Cyruses of the world, the I can't remember what the bad guy from Gen 5 his name Getsuses of the world. But there'll always be the Ashes of the world, the Dons, the Lucases, the Mays, the Brocks that care more about that connection. And it's those people that we need to look at as an example. Because when Mewtwo it finally meets the example that is Ash, the positive, I love my Pikachu character, versus how he's always been raised as versus Giovanni, who was I'm going to use you as a weapon. You're meant to be nothing but strong. And the scientists that created him, oh, we created you from the DNA of an inferior Pokemon. You're going to be superior in every way. It really flips that worldview on its head. And that line, the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant, really solidifies that. It's not about how you were raised, it's about how you choose to act and who you look up to as a role model. Anyways, that's the end of my notes because that was also the end of the movie, so I didn't write anything more down. Um, does anyone in the chat have anything they want to say about the movie or even just their thoughts on Pokemon in general? Uh, I will. One thing I do want to bring up, actually, while I still have some time, uh, there was a 3D CG remake of this movie, Pokemon Mewtwo remake. That was released on Netflix, I believe. I don't know if it's still available or not. Um, but I haven't seen the 3D CG remake. I watched the original version of Pokemon the first movie, and so I don't know how accurate it is. But I think it's interesting that this movie stood the test of time so much, and even if it's just because the Pokemon Company banks so much on nostalgia to market their stuff, but this movie stood the test of time well enough to warrant a remake that preserves the same tone and events and basically just changes the animation out. It is, I said this earlier and I'll say it again. I think that it is the best Pokemon movie. And there's like 22 of those now, maybe even 24 or 25. But it is the best Pokemon movie because it doesn't focus on the Pokemon, it focuses on the character of Mewtwo. And it doesn't focus on the Pokemon of Mewtwo, it focuses on the character of Mewtwo and how he changes and grows throughout the movie, which is what sets it apart from all the other movies, where it focuses more on we need to this Pokemon to do a thing for plot, or this mythical Pokemon decides to visit Ash and his friends, and plot happens. Whereas this is completely character driven. And I think having that character driven story in a Pokemon movie. Having character driven rather than plot driven stories usually makes the movie. In my opinion, I prefer character driven movies over plot driven movies. Having that for Pokemon just makes it feel so much richer, especially considering Pokemon is a franchise that doesn't really like to explore these heavier topics that its world presents. Uh, it Every once in a while you'll get your Pokemon the first movies and your Pokemon Black and Whites that explore like the moral ambiguity of having Pokemon fight like that. But usually it'll just flip flop and say, nope, nothing is morally wrong with this. We are all 100% perfectly in the good. And in fact, bad guys are bad because they don't like Pokemon secretly. Because, like, even in Gen 5, Getsis is the bad guy, but most of Team Plasma truly believes in liberating Pokemon. And then it turns out at the end, nope, Getsis doesn't really care about liberating Team Pokemon. In fact, Team Plasma all doesn't care about Pokemon at all. They just want no one else to have Pokemon, so it'll be that much easier for them to take over when they have the only strong Pokemon left. You know, just so to have this movie not flip flop on that moral lesson, have it be less about bad guy just want strong Pokemon and be more bad guy was abused as a child and wants to take it out on the rest of the world before he realizes, maybe the rest of the world isn't too bad after seeing positive role model. Now I know that today has been pretty short. It's been about 20-ish minutes less than I normally go. Um, but I don't have a guest today. Uh, so I was planning on keeping this one to be a little shorter. Uh, I still have yet to figure out next week's movie. Actually, I shouldn't say next week's movie. Um, I'm going to be taking next week. I'm not going to be doing an episode. So the next episode will be on the 11th. I will not get into the reasons why I will not be doing an episode next week because those are not to be divulged. But next week not next week, 2 weeks on the 11th, I will announce the movie that we are going to be covering, uh, either later today or tomorrow on my Twitter and on the Friday Film Club subreddit, as well as in my Discord server. Um, so check there, check in any of those places if either today or tomorrow. If you are watching the VOD for this or are listening on Spotify, then that information should already be available again in those three places. But everyone who is here right now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for contributing your thoughts and ideas. Pimer, Solomon, Frosted, you three contributed some good ideas to the discussion. And so until I see you all next time, thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.